Good morning and welcome. It is I, the OGGM, broadcasting live from my dining room as we are finishing up our deep dive into Heroes Unlimited. And we're going to do the major powers now. And this might take a bit because there's a lot of them. And as you can see, each one of them has a ton of detail. And you're going to hear me say this over and over again. This is where this system shines, where this system stands out from any other superhero game I know. I'm not saying there aren't other games out there that do this much of detail. If there are, please let me know. I'm not aware of them. As far as I know, this is the only superhero role-playing game that has gone into this much detail for each individual power. I mean, look at this. You know, in any other superhero role-playing game, this power alone would maybe be 2 lines. But here we have broken down. So yeah, this is where Heroes Unlimited shines. Some would say it's too much information. It's too chunky. It's too clunky. I don't know, man. You know, you've heard me say it hundreds of times that no matter what superhero game I'm running, playing, this is where I come back to look up if I think I could do something with the power, or to flesh out if I'm designing a system, you know. So starting with A, we have adapt to environment. And, you know, pretty simple. Put me in an environment, bam, I'm fine. But look at this. They cover each environment and all the advantages and disadvantages you would have in each environment. And, you know, you don't think about like, oh, what type of adaptation would I have if I was in the jungle? All right, so and then, of course, the stat bonuses. Then we have alter feature and physical stature, which I guess is sort of their shape change, form change, doppelganger ability, but they already have one in the minor powers, and this one is kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I can change how tall I am. I can sort of look like somebody else. I can alter my voice. I get a few advantages. But yeah, you know, this one I think doesn't feel like a major power, considering that, you know, I think they would have just combined the two. And we have alter limbs, which is also a minor power. So this is a more upgraded version like this. So this one's like, oh, I can turn my hand into a chainsaw. I can turn my chest into a machine gun. And I think this is based upon a X-Men. Wasn't there a guy who shot things who could turn his hand into like a gun? Yeah, so I guess that's where I came from. Again, does this really feel like a major power? You know, I mean, I suppose turning your arm into a chainsaw is kind of major. But again, just look at this. Then we have alter metabolism. So speed up, slow down. This is sort of like hyperkinesis, but not really. Again, you know, it feels awesome. I don't know if it's is it a major power? But it's pretty cool. And, you know, it's again, just look at all that information. Now here we go. Here's the ones where we're like, this is, wow. These are the major powers. So we have alter physical structure, electricity, turn yourself into a living lightning bolt, all the different things you can do while you're in your alter physical structure, the advantages and disadvantages, the bonuses and minuses, you know, and they take into account thinking like, does the fire spread? Does the electricity cause EMPs and short circuit things, you know? And no other superhero game I know of covered that. Then we have alter physical structure fire, and this is literally 1, 2, almost 3 pages of information just on fire, and it goes down, you know, each degree, like what happens at 100 degrees, what happens at 500 degrees, and this, like, you know, I joke about, you know, sooner or later somebody with the fire power is going to ask, can I use my fire powers to cook their food? But obviously they thought about that. Why else would they let us know that the character can heat themselves up to the same range as an oven, that they literally can cook food? I mean, when would this ever come into consideration in a typical 3-hour superhero comic book session, right? Whoever has asked that question other than me. But they thought that, oh, okay, at least one person's going to want to know, am I hot enough to melt glass? Am I hot enough to cook popcorn? Am I hot enough to burn through this concrete? And they was like, okay, here you go. Here's all the information. Here's the advantages and disadvantages of the heat. You know, what happens if you explode? What happens if you set things on fire? What happens if, you know, you're underwater, ice? How much time it takes to burn something? And here's the same thing with alter physical structure of ice. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, 4 complete lines of all the different things you can do with this one superpower. So this is Iceman, and they covered every possible question that somebody ever asked, you know. Can I X? And they were like, oh yeah. So this, you know, this is where they shine. They have alter physical structure liquid, which I'm, you know, I know ink from from Batman Beyond. I'm sure there were characters that could turn into liquid. Fathom, but this one doesn't get as much love. It only gets 1.5. Alter physical structure metal, you know, Colossus. This one only gets 1.5. But really, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's not a lot of extra special effects. I can take a lot of damage. I can deal a lot of damage. I move kind of slow. I guess maybe I rust, you know, drop me in the water, I sink. We got alter physical structure plants because, yeah, form of a begonia. It could happen, but I think they're more thinking of like, you know, Swamp Thing type characters. Like this guy's body is turned into the fibrous material of a plant, not like my superpower is turning into daisies. And then we've got like the different types of plants that could be considered, you know, combat, like poison ivy. And this, you know, again, look at this. Then we have alter physical structure plasma. I'm not quite sure what the difference between plasma and fire is. I'm sure there's some science thing and what you can do with the alter physical structure plasma. It reads a lot like the alter physical structure fire, but has less pages. But yeah, basically you become a flying, walking ball of liquid plasma. Not blood, but the other kind of plasma. Then we have alter physical structure smoke, and like, you know, or mist, or just clouds, because there's characters that can do that. And just what the different abilities you have. Then we got alter physical structure stone, you know, the ever-loving blue-eye thing, one of my favorites. And this one, again, pretty simple. I mean, there's not a lot you could do. I'm strong. I can hit really hard. I can take a lot of damage. I can do the, you know, the power slap. Then we got the animal abilities, and they cover a lot of animals. They don't cover every animal. But then if you go back to the mutants animals section in mutants, there's plenty of more animals in there. So, you know, these are the guys and girls who've gotten like wolf powers, cat powers, horse powers, bat powers, right? Then we go the alter physical structure, turn yourself into an animal, you know, form of a dog, shape of a lizard. They cover all the different types of animals and ideas you could turn into, and you can, you know, then go over here and look at the ideas to get what you can do. So these two feed into each other. Bio armor. I'm not sure what this one was supposed to be. I guess sort of like just a self force field. Yeah, this one I don't know. I don't know who this is trying to emulate. I mean, I think it's supposed to be like a personal force field, I guess. Then we have Bio Ghost, which allows you to feed off the biological energy of others and be sort of ghost-like. And while you're in ghost-like, you can sort of vampire people. Again, this seems like an unusual power. I mean, 1980s, I'm sure there was an X-Men villain or a DC villain that was sort of a vampire ghost. Then we have Chameleon, which, again, this feels like a minor power. And they just sort of mushed a couple powers in there together to make it seem major. But I mean, really, is Chameleon blending a major power? But look, even then, what is my percentage chance of blending if I'm standing still? What was my percentage chance if I'm moving slow, moving fast, double moving, you know? They thought about that. They put the extra think into it. Then we have the ability to make yourself invisible to machines. That's a cool one. And we got control elemental force. And again, here's the big chunky ones. Look at all this. Basically almost 2 pages of information just on what you could do with the wind and being able to control wind. And then here we have, you know, elemental control, earth. I can make tunnels, and I can hurl rocks, and I can make quicksand. And then just look at this. Every question you could think somebody might have asked with that power, they have tried to cover. Elemental force fire, same thing. I'm not sure why fire gets less pages than earth. I guess they figure they've already answered all the questions for fire with the body change, and you can just take the powers from the body change section and add them to here if it doesn't, if there's a question that you don't have the answer to here, you just go over there and say, oh yeah, how hot can I make it? Okay, I can make it that hot, Elemental control force water, Trouble with that one is you got to be somewhere near water, right? And all the different things you can do with water. And control insects. And here's where they get, again, maybe crunchy to the point of too crunchy, because not only do they cover all the possible things, both silly and dangerous, you could do with a swarm of insects, because they do cover things like how much could a swarm of insects carry? And you're like, why would that come up? But then you're like, oh yeah, there's that scene where the guy gets carried away by the swarm of ants. And what if I had, Ant-Man showed us that all the things a swarm of ants could do, How much could a swarm of ants carry? Could they carry off an entire couch? They cover it. And then they cover every single solitary insect you could think of, including ones where you'd be like, why would I use that as a villain or a hero with insect control animals, If I can control insects, I'm going to think ants, right? Bees, spiders. I'm not going to think grasshoppers. Oh, yes, the combined power of my grasshoppers will let me, eat a lot of wheat. Destroy your crops. Get Yellow Jacket, Praying Mantis again. Praying mantises aren't really that much of a threat to humans. They're a threat to each other. But I mean, they're it's like spiders, of course, because you got to have spiders, scorpions, stag beetles, just everything. And then we have control kinetic energy, which lets you like speed up and slow down other people and other weapons. Increase movement, decrease movement, redirect kinetic energy. So if like somebody's shooting you, you can redirect the bullets. This one's kind of weird. And I'm trying to, again, this is one like, who is this trying to emulate? Was there an X-Men character that could, control people's kinetic energy? I'm sure there was. I can't think of it. I don't know why I'm thinking X-Men is the default, but let's face it, in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of weird X-Men mutants. Mind control. We've got, and then the limitations of mind control. Control radiation. The atomic skull. All the classic atomic supervillains and heroes like Captain Atom. Just how dangerous it is. How much of a radiation you control. When do you become a walking nuke, Control static electricity. Does this really feel like a major superpower? I can give you a bit of a shock. I can make your socks cling to your shirt. I can, I can totally kill a swarm of bugs like a bug zapper. I'm almost a taser. But that said, they go through every possible thing they think somebody would be able to do with static, And even some where you didn't think about, like, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that with static electricity. We have copy physical structure major, the classic character. I touch the table, I become the table. I touch the iron, I become the iron. Now here's the classic force field, and what you can do with it, how much damage it can take. Can I make stairs out of my force field? Let's cover that. And we got darkness control. Then we got disruptive touch. The guy, I've got the vampire touch and blah, 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 blah. Then we have divine aura, which I guess is, how do you explain people like Wonder Woman or Superman who just have this ability to inspire people? It's more than just heightened charisma. It's almost this godlike aura. So they're like, let's throw it in. Got energy absorption. Then we got force aura. I'm not sure how this is different than the channel body energy one, because it basically does the exact same thing. So this one again feels like and we've got bio armor already, and personal force field. So I'm not sure why this one's in here. And this again could have been a minor power, but other than that, again, just somebody asked the question. And then we have gem powers. And every time I get to this section, I'm like, why? I mean, what I think there was a one-shot supervillain in DC maybe who had gem powers or could control gems, but basically I was just telekinesis on the gems. This one was like, okay, this guy gets their powers from gems, and this is each possible gem we could think of and what they do. And they cover that, what you can do with the gems, and what, you know, we got gravity manipulation. Is gravity manipulation and telekinesis the same thing with just a different name? I don't know. Growth, holographic memory projection. Instead of just simply illusions, they went into really the science and all the ideas of what you could and could not do with this power. And again, I'm just going to say what I've been saying. No other superhero game that I know of goes to this much detail. Immortality, pretty self-explanatory. Intangibility, pretty self-explanatory. But they still give you all this information of what you can and can't do. Same with invisibility. Again, invisibility, minor power, you know, simple. We know what it is. I'm invisible. As long as I don't do anything to attract attention to myself, they don't know I'm here. But they go like, okay, this is all the things you can and can't do with invisible. This is the, you know, invulnerability. Another one, pretty self-explanatory. I take no damage. Item reduction, know exactly where that's from. But that was like another, you know, one-shot character who had, you know, the ability to shrink and grow our, you know, stuff. But they're like, sooner or later, let's throw it in there and let's throw exactly what you can shrink and you can't shrink and how hard it is to shrink a car, you know, or whatever. Then we just got, you know, classic comic book luck. And they go through in depth all the things the ridiculous, you know, dirty pair, black cat luck can do. And they have lycanthropy in there for reasons. Magnetism, Magneto. The ability to mimic other superpowers, that's in there. And again, just information. Mechanolink. This one could have definitely been fleshed out because right now it doesn't feel like a major power. You know, telemechanics should be a lot more stuff. The self-cloning ability. You know, we've seen a couple characters with self-cloning. And they just go into this over and over. Then we have the 9 lives, multiple lives power. We know that there's at least 2 characters who has this power. You know, you die, you come back. And maybe you come back with a completely different set of powers, or you come back with memory or no memory. Then we have the dreaded negate super abilities and what you can and cannot negate. Then we have natural combat ability to, I guess, describe super martial artists, you know, guys whose powers are martial arts. So this guy has got a lot of things that duplicate the physical training, special training characters, but for them it's a power. And we've got negative matter, the dark force. We know there's plenty of characters in the Marvel universe who have the ability to control this negative energy. Plant control, they cover it, and they cover it in depth. Shape changer, this one definitely could have used some more information. What you can and can't do with it. Shrink, different types of shrink. Slow motion control. Another one where you're like, I don't remember anybody ever having that. But hey, yeah, being able to control the speed. Slow down. Oh no, I meant it slow down. Sonic powers, sonic absorption, sonic flight. They differentiate between normal flight and ridiculous flight. And because of the rules of comic books, they also make it clear that even though you're breaking the sound barrier, you're not doing the damage that you think somebody breaking the sound barrier down the middle of Main Street would do. Same with sonic speed. Super spinning. There's like one character I could think of who is super spinning. They covered it. Stretching. This one, they could have, yeah, I mean, it reads like a lot of information, but it definitely also feels like there's sections where it could have been extended, but still, they include it. Then they have the super energy expulsion. You don't just have the normal energy expulsion. You have the, you know, Kamehameha energy explosion, the wave motion cannon where you can just devastate spaceships. Then they have a section on supernatural strength. And this is one that's really interesting because, you know, they discuss super strong characters. And that's something I discussed in my superhero role-playing game that I published recently and the one that I have coming up. You know, the difference between super strength and being able to lift things. Because I don't care how strong you are. You can't lift a battleship. It will collapse upon itself the second you remove it from the water. You need something to be able to generate the same amount of force on both ends because otherwise the buoyancy of the battleship is what keeps it from sinking and what keeps the mass from affecting it. You take the battleship out of the water, it will start collapsing on itself. So they talk about how, well, you know, this is how much damage you can do and this is how much you can lift, but yeah, no, you can't lift a battleship. You can lift the mass of the battleship, but you can't lift a battleship because it'll collapse upon yourself. Then we have tentacles, which is weird because we had tentacles in the minor powers. Yeah, tentacles. Yep, little super X-Men. Again, I know there was an X-Men villain with tentacles. Doc Ock has tentacles. And we got teleport. And we got the ability to possess other people. Vibratory powers. And weight manipulation. And that's it. Then we have the psionics, which is decent, but we know that they had a better psionic systems than some of their other games. And I would say, you know, if you wanted to run a psychic character in a Heroes Unlimited game and you had access to the other psychic books that they already did, those make you feel more. And the same with their magic system. They give sort of a short version of the Palladium Fantasy magic system in here. But again, there's better magic systems and Rifts in Palladium Fantasy. So again, I would say, you know what, if I was running it and we had access to those books, I would let you use those as well. But again, guys, I mean, just look at this. I mean, even the most ridiculous powers, weight manipulation, like every possible scenario. You know, every page of their power section is just chunky goodness. This game is so close to being one of the best superhero role-playing games, but it's also its own worst enemy. It's too clunky. It doesn't make sense. The editing is awful. It's too easy to break. The system is just all over the place. D20s plus D6s plus percentile plus all the other dice and all these little pluses and minuses that I can stack on top of each other. You know, I get +4 to my defense, but then I also get a prowl of 95, but I don't, what does that mean? What's the difference? I played Heroes Unlimited. I ran Heroes Unlimited, and the one consistency was there was a lot of stuff we just ignored. And it played more like a D20, just a, you know, roll D20. So yeah, there are reasons why it's not more popular. It does have a dedicated fan base, and it is just a warehouse of information. If you're even thinking of ever running a superhero role-playing game, at least take a look at the PDF, because just the ideas in here are amazing. And that's it. That's Heroes Unlimited. Deep dive. Yeah, I'm just salivating over it. I feel like I'm just fanboying how awesome the power section is, but it is. It's the best super power section I'm aware of. If you know of a better one, let me know. There it is. It's still available out there on the Palladium site on drive-thru. Max and the guys over at Legion of Myth talk to Kevin and the Palladium guys all the time. So if you really want to get into what's going on with Palladium and Heroes Unlimited and Rifts and all the other stuff, check out Legion of Myth. And there you go. Thank you very much.